par Lalonde, and I'm from Cornwall, Ontario in Canada. About a decade ago, when I was about 22, 23, the whole same-sex marriage campaign in Canada was ramping up quite a bit. So some of the courts were starting to overturn the laws, and gay people were starting to get married in certain provinces, but not all. So similar to what was going on in the United States, where some states had marriage, but not all. So the same thing was going on in Canada. And what it did is it created a lot of backlash from within the Christian community. So a lot of Catholic churches, priests were, saying sermons against the gays and against gay marriage, and a lot of Christian organizations started to organize around that idea as well, to oppose same-sex marriage. And around that time, I became obsessed with watching this one television station called Crossroads Television Station, which is essentially just a Christian TV station, and they had a lot of Christian shows. And every Sunday night there was this guy, Charles McVitie, who was also the president of a Christian college, and he was really involved in the movement. He was seen as a de facto leader, in fact, of the anti-same-sex marriage cause. And he would come on Sunday nights at around 8 p.m. And I would set my watch 8 p.m. every Sunday because I had to watch him. And he would just go on and on about how if gays get married, it'll just be the end of society. Nothing will work. The trains won't be on time. It'll be terrible, chaos everywhere. I think what made me so mad is that as I would watch him, he would be talking to me, directly at me, and telling me that I'm a terrible person, that I'm awful, that I would be a terrible father. And I had been a lifeguard for years, and I had been great with kids, and I knew I wanted to be a dad, and I knew I wanted to get married, and these were things that I wanted for myself. And this guy is telling me, no, you're terrible, and it's never going to work for you, and we're just not going to let it happen. And just one day, I couldn't stand it anymore, and I was like, I have to get involved. I have to do something. I have to fight against this guy. I found out about this organization called EGAD Canada. EGAD is the French word for equal. It's also an acronym for equality for gays and lesbians everywhere. And I was really proud to be a part of it. And I stayed for about 2 years, and through it, I got to see same-sex marriage pass through Parliament. It was voted by our legislators, but then the following election, the Conservatives came into power, and one of their campaign promises was to have a debate to see whether or not we should reopen the discussion over same-sex marriage and possibly overturn it. And one day, this Christian organization that was organizing a day of mourning for Canadian society, because we were going to hell with all this gay marriage, organized this day of meetings and all this stuff. And EGAD had asked me, if I would go as their mole and just kind of take notes to see, what are they saying, what are they talking about, so that we would have something to know, what are their arguments against us. And so I was on board. I was like, send me in there, guys. I'm part of the team. I want to do this. Let's go. And I showed up, and the person leading the entire day was this guy that I used to watch every Sunday at 8 p.m., Charles McVitie. The only problem now is that I couldn't change the channel after 5 minutes when I was enraged. I just had to sit there and listen to this guy tell me that I'm going to be an awful parent, society's going to hell, and all this stuff. And I think it was actually sitting through that day that, rather than actually being angry, because I wasn't anymore, we won. We got what we wanted. I had won. I beat him. But instead, I just almost pitied him. I was looking at this guy, and it's really, you're still fighting this? Dude, get over it. I don't think that too, but it's if you got to know us, if you kind of got pulled into our world, and got to see that it's not as bad as you think it is, you probably see that we're just decent human beings, just trying to be happy, trying to make a life, and you could be a part of it. You could be a part of this movement that we're trying to be a part of, that we're trying to build society that's much more inclusive. And it made me realize that organizations like EGAL, that bring people together, these people that don't fit in, that don't have a home, and that kind of bring them together, are so much more important, and so much more valuable to society. And also they create a sense of belonging and kind of minimize that anger that was fueling me before. I wasn't as angry as I used to be. I wasn't angry like I was initially, and I was much happier. When I see people who rage out, I almost just want to kind of talk to them and just kind of calm them down and be like, no, just focus on your goal, go meet people, be involved but in a positive way, and try to include your opponents as well. Don't try to minimize them, don't be angry against them. Realize that you're all a part of the same society, you're all part of the same community. And even though you might hate them, even though really deep down in your core you're angry, it's the other emotions, the much more positive ones, the ones that lead you to try to create a more inclusive society. Those are the ones that ultimately are going to make you a lot happier.